Welcome to A Someone's Outside, true horror story. It was a cold October night. I had just finished watching a movie on Netflix. I turned off the TV and locked the door. I checked all the windows one by one. I brushed my teeth and got into bed. The time was 11:47 p.m. I looked at my phone before putting it on silent. The house was completely quiet. I was just starting to fall asleep. And then I heard it. 3 soft knocks on the door. At first I thought it was part of a dream. But then it came again louder. I got out of bed slowly. I picked up my flashlight. I walked toward the front door. There was no sound now. I looked through the peephole. No one was there. I turned on the porch light. Still no one outside. I locked the door again. I went back to bed. I pulled the blanket up. And again, knocking. But this time, from the back door. I stopped breathing for a moment. My back door is in the kitchen. No one ever comes there. The fence blocks the backyard. I tiptoed to the kitchen window. I peeked outside. It was dark and quiet, but I saw movement. A shadow standing near the fence. It didn't move. It just stood there. I couldn't see the face. I reached for my phone, but it was in the bedroom charging. I ran back to my bedroom. I grabbed my phone. I called 911. I whispered everything I saw. They told me a car was on the way. They said stay on the line. I peeked out the kitchen again. The figure was gone. The backyard was empty. I started doubting myself. Maybe it was a drunk person. Maybe I imagined the whole thing. But the operator told me stay alert. Then I saw the flashing police lights. 2 officers came to my door. They looked around the backyard. They checked the porch. They found nothing. No signs of entry. No footprints in the dirt. One officer asked if I was sure. I said yes. I told them what I saw. They nodded but didn't look convinced. They said, keep the doors locked. Call again if it happens again. Then they left. I was still shaken, but I tried to sleep again. It was past 2:30 a.m. I left the lights on. I stayed in bed with my phone. Every sound made me flinch. I was about to fall asleep. And then 3 loud knocks. This time, on my bedroom window. I sat up, frozen. I turned slowly. A face was staring at me, pale, eyes wide open. Right at the glass, I couldn't breathe. I grabbed my phone, and I ran to the closet. I closed the door and sat in the dark. I called 911 again. I whispered everything. I told them he was at my window. The operator said stay hidden. I heard footsteps in the hallway inside my house, but all the doors were still locked. I didn't understand. Was I dreaming? Was he already inside? I stayed quiet. I didn't move. Then I heard sirens again. Police arrived quickly. They searched the house, but found nothing. No one was there. Next morning, I checked the window. There were fingerprints, smudges on the glass. He had touched the window. My neighbor came over. She said she saw someone standing near my fence the night before. She thought it was a friend visiting. I told her what happened. She looked scared too. I installed cameras around the house, but nothing ever showed up again. I never saw his face, but I know he was real. He was there, inside my house that night. I moved out 1 month later. I couldn't stay in that house anymore. I still think about that face, how he got in, why he came, and what would have happened if I opened the door. Now I keep every door locked. I never ignore strange sounds. And if someone knocks at night, I don't answer. Because sometimes the most dangerous thing is the man standing outside your window. Moved into a new apartment across town. It was on the 3rd floor, felt safer somehow. No backyard, no dark corners, just a hallway and a balcony. I kept the lights on at night. I kept a bat beside my bed. I told myself it was over. He was gone. But I couldn't sleep properly, not for weeks. And then one night, I heard it again. 3 knocks. My heart stopped. I lived on the 3rd floor. No stairs outside, no ladder, no way to climb. But the knocks were real. I turned slowly, curtains still closed. I tiptoed to the sliding door. I pulled back the curtain and saw nothing. The balcony was empty. The street below was quiet. I tried to convince myself. Maybe I imagined it. Maybe it was the wind. But then I saw it. A single handprint on the glass. I couldn't sleep after that. I stayed up every night, watching the balcony, watching the hallway, waiting for something, but nothing came for days. Then one night, the lights in the hallway flickered. I opened the door and looked out. There was no one there, but a small note was on my doormat. Written in shaky handwriting, it said, "You moved, but I found you." I closed the door and locked every single lock. I went to the police again. I showed them the note. I told them everything. They wrote a report, but there were no fingerprints. No camera footage, nothing. They told me to be careful. They told me to consider moving again. I didn't want to. I felt angry. I felt hunted. I started carrying pepper spray. I changed my locks. I blocked off the balcony. But fear never left. I kept hearing things at night. 2 weeks later, I came home late from work. It was raining. I walked into my building. The elevator was broken, so I took the stairs as I climbed. I felt like someone was behind me. I turned. No one. I reached my floor, put the key in my door, and heard a voice behind me. Soft male. "You left the window open." I turned. He was there. The same face, smiling wet from the rain. He stepped toward me. I dropped my keys. I screamed. I shoved him with all my strength. He stumbled. I ran down the hallway, knocking on every door. One opened. A neighbor pulled me inside. Called the police. They caught him. He didn't resist. They found photos in his pocket. Photos of me, at home, at work, sleeping. They arrested him. Said he had done this before. 2 other women. He would stalk, watch, wait, knock until someone let him in. He never broke in. He waited to be invited. He said that made it special. He said he liked the fear. He said my fear was beautiful. I never went back to that apartment. I left the city completely. Started over far away, changed my name. But I still check every window. I still sleep with the lights on. So if you hear knocking late at night, and no one is supposed to be there, don't open the door. Don't peek through the curtains. Because sometimes they're not trying to break in. They're waiting for you to let them in, and once you do, they never really leave. I moved to a smaller town, changed my number, changed my hair. No social media, no photos. I worked from home. I told no one about my past, but some nights, when everything was quiet, I still felt watched. I still heard sounds. Sometimes, I'd wake up to the feeling of someone staring, but the room would be empty, still silent, wrong. I covered the mirrors in my room. I couldn't stand seeing reflections because once, late at night, I saw something behind me, a shape in the corner. When I turned, there was nothing, but in the mirror, it stayed not moving. Just watching, I covered it with a sheet and never uncovered it again. One morning, a letter arrived at my doorstep. No stamp, no address, just my name in handwriting. I recognized it said, "You left again, but I know where you are." And underneath a photo of me, standing in front of my new house taken from across the street. That night, the knocking started again. This time, on my bedroom window. It was the second floor, no balcony, just a flat wall. But the knocking was clear, precise 3 times. I couldn't move, I couldn't scream. I just stared at the window, waiting. And then the handle turned slowly, even though it was locked. I ran from that house. Middle of the night, no shoes, no phone, just fear. I ran to the neighbors, banged on their door, begged them to let me in. They called the police. But when they arrived, there was no one at my place. No footprints, no forced entry, but the window was wide open. They told me to stay with someone. I had no one. I stayed in a Motel 1 room. No windows, 1 door, felt safer. I tried to sleep, but around 3 a.m., there was a knock, not loud, just soft, right at the door. 3 times, then silence. I didn't answer, I didn't move. I held my breath, and then, from the other side of the door, I heard him, his voice, clear. "I missed you," he whispered. Then silence. No footsteps, no retreat, just silence and the overwhelming sense that he was still there, smiling, waiting. I left again, different name, different place, different everything. I don't trust windows. I don't trust doors. I check locks 20 times. I sleep with noise in the background, but even now, even today, sometimes I still hear the knocking, always 3 times, always when I'm alone, always just before sleep. Like he's reminding me he's still out there, still watching, still waiting. One night my phone rang, unknown number. I answered, nothing but breathing, heavy, slow breathing. Then a whisper, "I see you." I hung up. My hands shook. I knew it was him. He found me again. I stayed at a friend's house, but even there, in the dark hallway, I saw a shadow tall and still watching me. I blinked. It vanished, but the feeling stayed, like a cold breath on my neck, like a warning. He's closer now. One morning, I found a note slipped under the door. In the same handwriting, it said, "You cannot hide forever." I tried to call the police. They said no evidence, no proof, just words on paper, but I knew it was real, more real than ever. That night, as I tried to sleep, the knocking started again, 3 times, then silence, and a voice, soft but cruel. "I will come for you, soon prepare yourself." I packed my bag, left everything behind. No address, no destination, just running, but I know, no matter where I go, no matter how far I run, he is always there, waiting, watching, knocking 3 times just outside the door. I checked into a cheap motel. The room was small and cold. I locked the door twice, but late at night, I heard footsteps outside, slow and heavy. I held my breath. The doorknob rattled, but the door stayed shut. Still, I knew he was there. At dawn, I slipped out quietly, leaving the motel behind. No looking back, I felt his eyes burning into my back. I ran without stopping. The city streets were empty, but I wasn't alone. A friend gave me shelter. Old house at the edge of town. We installed cameras, checked every window and door. But the cameras showed nothing, only the empty room. Yet I felt him inside, watching silently. My phone rang again, unknown number. I hesitated, then answered. A voice whispered, "You cannot escape me." I dropped the phone. My heart pounded. Fear wrapped around me like ice. I decided to face him. No more running. In the dark woods under the full moon, I heard a voice call my name. Slow footsteps approached. I stood my ground, ready for whatever came next. The figure appeared between the trees, tall and silent, his face hidden in darkness. He stepped closer slowly. I held my breath, ready for anything. But he only whispered, "You belong to me." Fear surged inside me. I turned and ran. Branches scratched my skin. The cold night air burned my lungs. Behind me, footsteps chased closer and closer. I didn't look back. I stumbled into an old church. The doors creaked as I pushed them open. The silence was heavy. I hid behind a pillar, prayed for safety. But the darkness inside felt alive, waiting for me. The candles flickered. Shadows danced on the walls. A cold wind blew through. The door slammed shut. I was trapped. Whispers surrounded me, calling my name. With all my strength, I pushed the door open, ran out into the dawn light. The nightmare was over, or so I hoped, but deep inside I knew he was still watching. I reached the highway. Cars passed by without stopping. I waved and screamed. Finally, one pulled over. The driver asked if I was okay. I nodded and got in. As we drove away, I looked back at the woods. They stood silent and still, but I saw him there, far away near the trees, just standing and staring. No one else saw him, only me. The driver turned on the radio. A news report played. Another person had vanished in the same forest. Same time, same place. I closed my eyes, tried to forget everything. But his face burned in my mind. He never left. He never will. Because once he sees you, you are his forever. The end. This story has now come to an end. If you enjoyed it and want to hear more thrilling and interesting horror stories, then don't forget to subscribe, like, and share my channel. Thank you for watching my video.